It's do or die time. The Celtics face the Sixers in Game 7 at the TD Garden in a couple of hours from now. I'm your boy, Adam Taylor. I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Mike Weber. Mike, Game 7, coming off two straight losses, both games being held under 100. This series has swung both ways, and right now it feels like Philly's coming in with all the momentum. It's I don't know how else to say other than this is, you said it great just before we came on air. This is paranoia time.
I mean, look, I never thought I'd say this, but maybe I should go back to Florida. I just, man, I didn't think we'd be having this conversation for sure. Not this series this early in the playoffs. And, there's a lot of buzz, a lot of finger pointing, not from internal, which is great. I think the Celtics have been pretty buttoned up and casual. They've been there before. But it's hard not to start diving into numbers, looking at trends, trying to find out what's the difference, what's going on. And it's definitely, what do they call it? Nut up or shut up time here in Boston today.
Yeah, and I'm at the point now, like I wrote about this last night. If anybody's not subscribed to the Celtics Chronicle newsletter, now would be a great time to do so. Head over to CelticsChronicle.com, links in the description. While you're scrolling down to the description, you'll go past the subscribe button, hit that on the way down too. I wrote about this yesterday, and it was like the first two games of this series, first three games of this series, it was very much the Tyrese, Maxey, and VJ had come Sixers, right? Fast pace, get down in transition, downhill, attack off missed shots. And the Celtics can deal with that. They're young, they're long pause, they're a bit explosive. They can do a bunch of stuff, and they managed to contain a lot of that. Then Embiid comes back. The first game, the Celtics just wiped the floor with them because all of a sudden now the Sixers are playing slower. Then Embiid kind of finds a rhythm, and Paul George steps up as this like crazy wing defender, which playoff P is back. He's getting to his spots at will, creating separation off the bounce when he wants. And then that's allowing Maxey to do Maxey things. And I think that what's happened now is the Celtics are up against a team that match up with them well. They have a clear advantage at the 5, and they're really putting Nemi in bad positions. They're putting Vooch in spots that just aren't great for Vooch either. And more importantly, and I didn't write this part, but this is kind of where I wanted to start with, they have a lot more optionality. So if you look at the Sixers starting 5 right now, everyone there can handle the rock. Everyone can create shots off the bounce. They can create shots for others. They can defend their yard. They can switch. The only one that can't switch is Embiid, obviously, but he's done a great job of taking away the rim. You felt the Celtics be a little bit distorted when getting downhill. And that was something that the Celtics did really well during like the 2 seasons with Drew and KP and Al Horford. They had that optionality to play 1 through 5. So when you go into a 5-out, everyone can make a decision and everyone can get shit done. Now it's not like that. You've got Tatum, Brown, and White. Then you've got Sam Hauser that can do a little bit off the bounce, but you don't really want him to do too much. He can shoot, can defend a little bit, but you don't have like a bunch of decision making at that position. And then you've got a 5 in Nemi or Vooch that are very much, this is your role, stay within your role. So they're being outplayed just because there's far more optionality coming up against them. And it leads to the question, do we see a rotation change? Do we see some guys step into the rotation? Do we see a change to the starting lineup? I tweeted out the other day, I'd like to see Baylor replace Sam in that starting 5 because he can give you similar shooting, but he can give you dribbling, creation off the bounce. He's a better rebounder, arguably a better defender. And then obviously we can go to the bench. So that's kind of where I want to start, is just how are you looking at this rotation right now and feeling like, hey, we need to make some changes. Where would those changes come from?
Yeah, I don't think it's like you got to pull like an Amari Williams into the situation, right? This isn't a desperate measure type situation, but I do think they have to reallocate maybe the way the minutes are played. I've been pro Shireman starting from the jump. I want to give Walsh credit. I do think he's doing the best Jordan Walsh can do. He's doing Jordan Walsh things, and I would say he deserves his flowers for sure. I'm urging this. Vooch looks like a street cone out there that Maxey's just doing drills on. It's bad. It's not even an Embiid thing. It's the fact that once they get that switch on the pick and roll, man, Maxey's just having his way with them. And that's normal. Maxey's an elite player. He's probably the fastest guard in the league. Debate that. But to me, I would love to see, because I do think the Sixers have shortened their rotation, I would love to see possibly a big wing lineup. I'm talking Tatum at the 5 with Walsh, Brown, Shireman, and I don't really care who the other person could be. Obviously, it's Brown in there, but like it could be Derek, it could be Hugo. I mean, I just think we need to tire them out. I think Embiid is able to kind of stay in the lane and just sit there and do. He's doing a fantastic job, by the way. He's been really handsy and physical and making it difficult for us to get easy shots in the paint. But I would love to see them try a big wing lineup. Throwing Vooch out there is not going well. Hauser, like we've talked about before, is a single skilled guy who's an amazing shooter and definitely an NBA rotation player. But I don't understand why he's averaging close to 30 minutes in this series. Sorry.
I think I've got a similar issue with Walsh though, right? Like, and I know I'm lower on Jordan Walsh than most people,
Yeah.
so take this as you want. Do you know what I mean? But and look, there's no denying he's had some great defensive possessions in this series. There's been times where he's just absolutely blew up whatever the Sixers are trying to run, shut down possessions multiple times as well. But if we're talking about optionality and ability to do multiple things on the floor, especially with the ball in your hand, Walsh is also one of those guys where he's kind of a defensive profile addition. And if you look at the way the Celtics are running right now, that's great. But if you're trying to add more decision making and ball handling to the rotation, just to match up a little bit better with what Philly are doing, I don't think there's much room for Walsh in that position because, he can drive the lane and he can really explode around the rim. No one's denying the fact that he's an explosive finisher. He's got hops. Yeah, he can shoot off the catch, but he doesn't do much with the ball in his hand, which is why I think Scheinman has that edge. I also think that's a similar issue for Ugo. I don't think I'd feel very comfortable asking Ugo to make decisions in a half court setting at this very moment in time. So because of that, it gets hard for me to kind of lean into this small ball like deaf wing lineup because there's still going to be one guy out there that can't make a decision. Now the difference is I'd much rather that be at the wing when you've got Tatum at the 5 and you're running a point center, and then you've also got Derek White and Jaylen Brown and Baylor Scheinman. I can live with one defensive profile guy. Now, do you go Jordan Walsh or do you go just for like? It's very easy to forget Hugo's got tournament basketball experience from his time in Europe when he played in the Euro League. He's also probably a little bit more physical than what Jordan is, so you can lean one of those two ways, and I'd be okay with going that way. I think that
Hugo could definitely do some of the Hugo's our best at drawing charges, momentum type plays, 50-50 plays, and he's got to be chomping at the bit Adam to get out there. He's got to be.
And I think this is why I was so big on Ugo being a factor in this series, like an unexpected factor at the start of the postseason when I was like, I think Ugo's a guy that can swing a game. And if there was ever a time to need someone to swing a game, today's the day. Now, Jordan Walsh can do that too. But I'm also okay with staying with a similar lineup and rotation, but moving Baylor into the starting 5 and then swapping out Vooch for Gaza. I think Gaza's screening is going to unlock a lot because of the way the Sixers are trying to take away the pick and roll. I think that you can play him at the level of the screen on defense a lot more reliably than what you can Vooch. If you bring Vooch up to the level and then there's a switch, Maxey or Edgecombe are just going to blow by you. They're going to attack that lead hip and you're out of it. If you drop too deep, which is what Vooch has been doing, you're just leaving so much room for floaters and stop and pop mid-range pull-ups. And then like there's possessions in game 6, and again, I'll put this in the newsletter, where it's like you've got Vooch banging with Embiid on the block, and to me, that's a position where you trust your big. You don't try and send help there because it's on an empty side, so you don't have anyone on the strong side. If you send help, someone's going to cut, and the Celtics had to keep sending help, and to me, that means they don't fully trust Vooch in that position because at the end of the day, they didn't used to send 2 when it was Horford guarding Embiid on the block. Very rarely. They'd dig, they'd stunt, but it was rare they'd trap. And I think that that's been part of the problem because Embiid's just reading it and kicking out. So, yeah, getting back to the small ball lineup, I'm okay with it, but I'm just not sure whether I'd prefer Ugo in that situation just for the hustle plays that he gives you in the physicality.
I'm okay with Ron Harper Jr. at this point. I mean, something.
I mean, if you're talking optionality, he's probably your best bet. At least he can do a little bit off the bounce.
Yeah, he's the most skilled as far as like providing playmaking and shooting. And I do think the Garza thing, you can't discount his shooting. He's been consistent in his limited minutes. Vooch, man, I mean, Drummond gave him the shack multiple times this series. Head fake, shoulder, dunk. Head fake, shoulder, dunk. I don't know that his base is as great as it used to be. It seems like, I think that's part of me wonders if the team is seeing Drummond have his way with Vooch and then sees him one-on-one versus Embiid and goes, oh, crap, we have to help. Just instinctually.
And it's happening with Nemi too. They're helping when Nemi's down there. I think with Nemi, it's more to try and avoid the foul trouble that he's in.
Right.
This just hasn't been a great series for either of them. And I know Billy, who was on the pre-game show with me yesterday, it's not a pre-game, it's like the few hours after the game when I'd woke up. But his stance on it has very much been that this series shows you that Cater's not the guy to be your long-term starting five. And I was on that train to begin the season. I kind of got off because of how well he was playing, but I am sitting here like maybe he's not your starting five long term because he has been borderline unplayable because of how easy he's been to bait into fouls. Then you add in Vooch that's just not been giving you much at all. And then you factor in the Derek White of everything. Now, there's going to be a huge Derek White conversation over the summer, and that we can leave that until the summer. We're going to have plenty of time.
Let's hope we have a few weeks.
Yeah, hopefully, and there's be a championship to talk about at the end of it. That's ideal. But what I'm getting at is, I think that if there are going to be changes after this season, the center position has to be the main point of focus, because I'm just not sold right now that either Vooch or Nemi are guys that you can go on a deep championship run with. And
so Giannis at the 5 is what I'm hearing. Giannis at the 5.
Well, unless you're willing to give up Jaylen Brown, and for anyone saying
you give Derek White, Hauser, I saw it. You could throw in a bunch of crap. You can make
but then how'd you build out the rest of the roster? You build it out with fucking throwaway spares. And like for anyone saying, "Oh, you trade Tatum for Giannis," okay, so you want two guys that don't really create off the bounce, that are both downhill threats. No, you have to be Tatum.
JT's proven this series why he's that guy. For sure.
He's been ridiculous.
Offense, everything just works smoother with JT.
And again, I'm not advocating for Giannis either. The dude's got a bunch of injury history. Yeah. He's consistently like hurt, or I just don't like the way things have gone down in Milwaukee.
He became a diva.
Older.
He became a diva. Like there was always that talk early on about, he's from Greece, he's a humble kid, which I'm sure he is, but there's a lot of LeBron-esque franchise meddling stuff that's been going on the last couple of years. I don't want any of that near this
in garbage time as well. You know what I mean? No. I mean, we're getting off topic here.
Anyway, back to this series.
So getting back to it, I don't mind running a small ball 5. The Celtics did that to some success during the season, around about the 2025 game mark, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And you'd have like Josh Miner and a bunch of wings. You'd go small. And it was working. I think like Xavier Tillman was a guy that they ran at the 5 for a while. They tried a few things and it worked for a while. Now, I think the one thing to say is this is low-hanging fruit. Like going small is low-hanging fruit that Nick Nurse is undoubtedly going to be prepared for at this point, because it feels like it's one of the last dice rolls the Celtics actually have left. And it feels like if you were going to do it, Game 7's when you're going to do it. So what I'm getting at is if they do it and it doesn't work, then maybe they'd left it too long to try, because at this point, Nurse will be at least prepared for it, if not expecting it. Where if you tried this in Game 4 or Game 5 or Game 6, maybe you could have got a little bit more out of it. I just think once you leave it to Game 7, all cards are on the table, you prepare for everything.
Yeah. I think this league is a make-miss league, and the stats are what they are. They're brutal. They're blatantly brutal. It's like we've shot 42% or less in all 3 losses. We've shot less than 30% from 3 in all 3 losses. And we've scored 120-something points, almost 120 points a game in all the wins. So it's easy to say like, oh, well, it's just they're going to hit shots. But what the stats say, what my eyes see, and what my heart feels are like 3 completely different things. What my eyes see is their guys getting through the lane unscathed. Our guys getting picked up and hugged and grabbed, right? And then the stats, it just feels like my eyes are also seeing us struggling to get a good shot off. And they're getting wide open shots, either because we're collapsing on Embiid or they're pick and rolling us to death and having Maxey get through the lane. There's just little things that make you wonder. But for me, I'll tell you, I can accept Joe getting out coached by Eric Spoelstra. Young Joe, first year as a head coach, right? I can accept that. Spo's one of them, right? He's the guy, right? He's arguably the best coach in the NBA. You could argue that, right? It's a conversation. Tibbs did it last year.
I don't even think it's a conversation. I think it's just a genuine fact.
Tibbs did it last year. I actually think the Knicks did Tibbs dirty personally, because I think he's an incredible defensive coach. I was kind of hoping we'd sign him this year to add to our staff. I know he did a visit at one point during the season. Is this going to happen with him with Nick Nurse? Is that going to be the narrative when this game is over today, that Joe was stubborn and got out coached by Nick Nurse?
I mean, for one, I'll put, if you go back and look at the X Factors episodes that we did, and I don't know whether we did it as an episode or whether I put it in the newsletter, because I kind of did X Factors across both.
I think both.
But
Yeah.
I definitely put Nick Nurse as an X factor in one of the two, if not both of these things, because and we had this discussion: is Nick Nurse going to be Joe Mazzulla's hardest coaching battle between first round and the NBA
Right.
Finals? And I think we agreed that the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And
Birmingham's finest.
yeah, Birmingham, a couple of years here, Birmingham
Hey, man.
legend. But what I'm getting at is like being out coached by Nick Nurse. I wouldn't look at it as like, oh, well, that's an insult because he's Nick Nurse. He's won a championship. He's been solid wherever he's gone. I think
Yep.
that what's happening is, and as lame, like I don't know, as cliche as what this is, or as silly as what this is, I think the Sixers just got healthy at the perfectly right time. And Embiid, this is a version of Embiid we haven't seen before because we're really feeling the impact of not having Al Horford for this series. Al Horford, if you've got Al Horford in this series, you've won by
Uh,
now. It's over.
Al Horford owns so much real estate in Embiid. It's incredible.
Series over.
He's the
It's
best
over in
I've ever
5.
seen.
If not, it's over in 6. You are not going to a game 7 when Al Horford's on this specific team.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's not happening. So I think that between the Sixers getting healthy, them matching up well because of the amount of decision makers they have in that starting 5, a little bit of the athleticism they're bringing off the bench, and then Nick Nurse just having a slight advantage over Joe. It feels like every in-game and game-to-game alteration Joe's making, Nick Nurse has been prepared for and counters instantly. I think that's just like a perfect storm. Does that mean they can't win game 7? No. If the Celtics come out, move the rock the way they did, if they play like they played in game 1 and jump out to an early lead, it's their game. We know they're capable of winning. They're arguably the better team. They have the best 2 players in the series in Tatum and
They
Brown.
do.
Everything was designed for them to be done by now, and they're just not. So I'm not saying they can't win, but what I will say is Boston are 1-1 in game 7s in Joe Mazzulla's time. So it's not like we have a long number to look back on.
No team has played more game 7s in the history of the NBA. We're 27-10.
27 and
7.
10. We're going to be
27
28 and 10 tonight.
I hope so, man. That's a
No.
hell of a number.
But it's 1-1 under Mazzulla, and I think that's where I'm looking at it right now. Like he's won one, he's lost one. Now the one that, if I remember correctly, the one that he did win was against Philly. So he's done this before. It's just once you start looking at the way the Celtics are playing at home right now, plus the way the Philly like to bait you into taking threes and then use their length to impact the shot release so that you take the threes that you want, you generate the quality shots that you want, but then they get impacted upon release.
Yeah.
It's not working out well for the Celtics. And I feel like that's why in game 6, you saw Boston start off by trying to get downhill more frequently. It felt like the first 5 minutes of game 6 was like, yo, we're going to get downhill. We're going to build some form of respect to make the Sixers kind of take a step back on the perimeter, but the shots just didn't fall. So the adjustment from Philly didn't have to come.
My question is, do you think that the matchup hunting and slowing down of our offense that seems to continuously happen when Philly has a counterpunch, like they did in the second quarter last game, is that a coaching decision, or do you think our stars are forgetting to trust their teammates? Because I feel like, I want to tell you, and I'm not saying this because I know it sounds cliche, but I feel like trust is the magic word here. I feel like they have to trust what got them here. They have to trust their teammates. They have to trust that the ball's going to come back to them. And I don't want to see, like, I watched several plays the other night where Jalen was the alpha out there and Tatum was on the bench when he left, where he's dribbling and he's dribbling into double teams. It's like flashbacks to all the things he hasn't done this year. And then also, like, I see guys ball watching. They're just not moving. There's no, like, rotating around to give Jalen options. I just don't want to see that. I think trust is the magic word today. I think Joe's going to trust what got him here. I think the players got to trust each other. And I think somebody needs to step up and have a Kelly Olynyk, Grant Williams game today for the Celtics.
I think it's really easy when you've got 2 of the better isolation scorers in the league to be like, well, nothing else working. Let's just ISO. And I don't know. I'd be very, very surprised if that was a Mazzulla call rather than a team call.
Yeah.
I think that, sometimes when things get difficult, you revert back to the training that's most deeply ingrained in you. And that means, AAU and early high school, a little bit of early college, where it's like, we're going to ISO, we're going to create the mismatch, ISO and score, or kick out once the defense is in the rotation. And I think that sometimes the Celtics do kind of lean back into that because it's the path of least resistance for them. The problem is when they do that, that the other team has kind of won that mental battle because Boston they abandon what works and go for what's comfortable. And it's super frustrating to watch from both Tatum and Brown, and to a lesser extent, Derek White did it a few times. I think that if you look at this as a whole, the team needs to, as you said, trust. They need to believe in the system that they've got, that they've won with this system all season. They've won with this system last year, a championship the year before. There's been tweaks. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar. I think that Mazzulla needs to kind of start opening his playbook a little bit more. It's clear the Sixers have that Spain pick and roll completely figured out. Yeah, the Celtics got a couple of easy buckets off it in game 6. They've had a couple of easy buckets, game 4, 5, whatever. But for the most part, the Sixers are blowing that up early and often. I think that if you could start leaning into some other aspects of the playbook, maybe create some early offense opportunities, that's going to go a long way. But the Celtics are one on the back foot right now. They're the ones that are going to have to come out bobbing and weaving and finding a way to hit that counterpunch so they can take control of the middle of the. And once they've got control of the middle of the ring, then they can start implementing their game plan. First quarter is going to be, and look, games aren't won or lost in the first quarter, but they're often built up in that quarter. And I think the way the Celtics come out first quarter is really going to tell us what type of game we're in for.
A lot of game 7s, man. Early on, it's like the team just gets hammered early, and it's kind of like a boring game afterwards. I hope that's not the case.
I mean, I'm fine with it being the case if the Celtics are the one doing the hammering.
Right.
I'm completely fine with that. If I'm turning off at halftime because it's 105-11, then, just putting out some random numbers.
You mean like the Hawks game?
Yeah,
the Hawks
fantastic. I am all in for that.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that's going to be that way. And look, I know Tatum's not on the injury report. Does that mean he might not have a minutes restriction? Could do. We don't know.
Yeah.
And like that's going to play into it. The Sixers going to try and run Tatum, and they're going to hunt him to see how well his how long that leg can hold up. Not saying they're going to be overly physical, but they're going to try and put extra miles on that clock early and see if he can hold up. You just don't know how they're going to come out. Look, I think the Celtics are still the better team here. I think they've got enough experience, but they've also got a supporting cast of a lot of inexperienced dudes. And I think that we've seen that show its head a couple of times this series. And what you've got to hope is the Celtics find a way to hide that inexperience as best as possible for this game.
I don't see how you can go into game 7 in Boston in that building with that fans and not have energy. I mean, like when you're there live,
is the moment too big? Like they're losing games at home at a ridiculous clip.
Yeah. 1-5. I told you the Bruins and Celtics so far this year in the playoffs at home.
Like, is that sometimes you got to ask, like, the crowd is amazing, but does it make the moment too big for some of these younger guys? Because these young guys are meant to be role players, are meant to come alive at home, and they're just not. So I don't know. I'm taking the Celtics in 7. I had the Celtics in 5. Then I had the Celtics in 6. Now I've got the Celtics in 7.
Maybe you'll be prophetic, Adam. Hugo Gonzalez comes in tonight. He proves that we weren't wasting an episode on the X Factor thing, and he dominates and kicks butt. Have a good laugh.
I mean, shit, part of this gig is just putting out what, stand on your opinions. And
it doesn't mean we're wrong. We could be right either way.
And I never really put much stock in who's right and who's wrong with these things. I just kind of stand on the opinion that I think Hugo is a guy that could make a difference this series, and we haven't really seen that. And we're at a point now where it's like, well, we know what we're getting from Jordan Walsh. We know what Sam Hauser's been giving. Maybe it's time to give Baylor Scheinman some time. Maybe it's time to give Hugo some time. Maybe if you want to go to Ron Harper Jr. There's a lot that needs doing. Game 7s are tough. I also wouldn't mind, and we'll end on this. How would you feel if they just opened up their rotation and went with like a Sixers, Warriors type of 10-man in the postseason rotation to keep and just play high octane for like 48?
I would love that. I would love that. I mean, we talked about opportunity, right? Talked about it. I love that. I told you my favorite part of the season was early on in the year when Joe was ripping guys out because they weren't rebounding. Where's that? Let's see that.
We're at a weird spot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this out to the floor. If you're watching, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Your attention span is fantastic. If you're not subscribed and you've made it this far, then clearly you enjoyed yourself. Hit subscribe. And if you are still here, leave a comment. Who do you think is going to win, Celtics or Sixers? How do you think it's going to go down? What are you concerned about? What are you optimistic about? And we'll be back tomorrow. I think it'll be me and Billy because it'll be at like 4 a.m. Mike's time, 3 a.m. Mike's time. Then me and Mike will be back on Monday talking about, whether the Celtics have won and previewing the Knicks or what this long-ass summer's about to have in store for us. Hopefully, it's the former, and we're talking about the Knicks. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll find out.
Draft.
Everybody, welcome to the Celtics Chronicle. We appreciate y'all being here. Catch you tomorrow. Deuces.